The phone rang twice before someone answered, but it wasn't her voice that came through. Hello? It was Daniel. For a second, my brain couldn't make sense of it. I just stared up at the dark hotel ceiling, the glow of the screen lighting my hand. Dan, I laughed faintly. What the hell are you doing with Emily's phone? Silence. Then a sharp inhale. Ryan, hey man, The sound of movement crackled through the speaker. Sheets shifting, a muffled whisper, and then the line went dead. I just lay there, staring into the dark, the world shrinking to the dull buzz of the disconnected call. I'd been in Boston for 3 days, chasing a client deal that was supposed to change everything. New contracts, more money, maybe even a fresh start. Emily and I had been off for a while. Too many late nights, too many tired excuses, too many arguments that ended in silence. But I still believed we could fix it. So that night, lying alone in my hotel room at 1 a.m., I called her just to hear her voice, to remind myself what all the effort, the travel, the endless grind was for. Instead, I got Daniel, my best friend since college, my brother in every way except blood. By the time my flight home landed the next evening, I'd already spun through every possible explanation. Maybe she'd called him for help. Maybe she'd dropped her phone. Maybe. But deep down, I already knew. When I pulled into the driveway, her car was there. The porch light glowed softly. Everything looked painfully normal, which somehow made it worse. Emily opened the door before I could knock. She gave me that small, uneasy smile, the one I hadn't seen since the distance started creeping in. You're back early, she said. Yeah, I replied, forcing a grin. Surprise? She looked perfect, as always, hair tied back, wearing that old sweatshirt I loved. For a moment, I almost let myself believe the lie. Then I saw it, a man's leather jacket draped over the couch. Black, familiar, Daniel's. My stomach turned. He dropped by earlier, she said quickly when she noticed me looking. We were just talking. He left his jacket. I stepped closer, my tone even though my hands trembled. Talking? At 1 a.m. Her eyes went wide. What? I called you last night, I said quietly. From Boston. Daniel answered your phone. The color drained from her face. And in that moment, that tiny heartbeat of silence, I knew everything. She didn't cry. Neither did I. We just stood there, surrounded by the heavy quiet of everything we hadn't said for months. Ryan, she whispered, please, it's not what you think. I almost laughed. Then tell me what it is, Emily. Tell me why my best friend had your phone. Tell me why he sounded like he was trying not to breathe. Her tears finally came. It just happened. I didn't plan it. You were gone all the time. I was lonely. And he was just convenient. I finished for her. Her silence was an answer. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just sat down on the edge of the couch, staring at the floor while she cried a few feet away. When we first met, she'd been this bold, fearless woman who filled every room with her laughter. Now she looked like a stranger wearing her face. How long? I asked. She hesitated. A few months. A few months. Meaning every time Daniel and I met for drinks, every time he'd ask about her, he already knew the truth better than I did. I could taste the bitterness as I said, you were both lying to me. I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered. I looked at her, really looked, and realized how meaningless that line was. People only say that to ease their own guilt, because betrayal is always a choice. That night, I packed a bag. She followed me upstairs, pleading through her tears. Please don't leave like this. We can talk. I made a mistake, but I still love you. I zipped the bag without looking at her. You don't get to use that word anymore. Her sobs grew louder. For a brief second, I almost gave in, almost held her like I used to, until I remembered Daniel's voice on the phone, that awkward silence, the guilt that hung in it. I walked past her without another word. For the first week, I stayed in a small apartment near the office. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Her messages went unanswered. His calls went straight to voicemail. Then one night, he showed up at my door. Ryan, he started, voice rough. Please, man, let me explain. I just stare at him. The man who'd been my best man at my wedding, who'd stood beside me at my father's funeral, who'd promised he'd always have my back. There's nothing left to explain, I said. He took a step closer. It was a mistake. We were both drunk that night, and then it just... Stop. My voice shook low and sharp. You don't get to rewrite it. You made a choice. Both of you did. His jaw clenched. I know, and I regret it for the rest of my life. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to make him feel the same pain that had been burning in my chest for days. But I couldn't, because underneath all the anger, there was nothing left but emptiness. Then live with it. I said quietly and shut the door in his face. After that, time moved differently. Days blurred into nights. Everything I'd built, my marriage, my friendships, my sense of self, felt like dust slipping through my fingers. I started running again. Long, aimless runs through the city, chasing exhaustion because it hurt less than thinking. Some nights, I still reach for my phone at 1 a.m., half expecting her name to light up the screen. But it never did. 3 months later, Emily sent a letter, handwritten. She said she'd moved out of the house, started therapy, and didn't expect forgiveness. She just wanted me to know she was sorry. I read it twice, folded it neatly, and tucked it away in the drawer beside our wedding photo. Forgiveness wasn't anywhere near reach. Maybe it never would be, but the silence between us didn't sting as much as it used to. Last week, I saw Daniel at a coffee shop downtown. He didn't notice me at first, just sat there staring into his cup, smaller somehow, older. When he finally looked up and our eyes met, I expected the old rage to come rushing back, but it didn't. I just felt tired. He stood halfway, debating whether to come over. I shook my head once, not in anger, but in finality. He nodded, sat back down. That was enough. People think betrayal is one sharp moment, a single cut, a clean break, but it isn't. It's slow erosion. It's the echo of what used to be, the quiet moments when you reach for someone who's no longer there. It's the silence that follows a 1 a.m. call, when the voice you trusted most becomes the one that destroys you. But here's the thing. Eventually, that silence turns into peace. And one day, when you finally stop replaying that moment in your head, you realize something simple. You survived it. And sometimes that's enough.